Okay, so today we are going to be graphing y equals mx equations. And so our learning goal is I can graph an equation that is in the form y equals mx. And then our learner's question is going to be pretty simple, is how can I graph an equation that is in the form y equals mx, question mark. Okay, so in order to graph, we have to review some things about that form, which we call slope-intercept form, but this one, remember, our y-intercept is just 0. But I'm going to go back to my slope notes, and I'm going to recall, it says, what is the y-intercept of an equation in the form y equals mx? Okay, so what is the y-intercept? Well, we have to remember what the y-intercept is. Okay, it's where the line crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to write that in. Where the line crosses the y-axis. And if we're looking at a graph that looks like this, I'm going to pop down to the graph for example 1. Remember, where y equals mx, it's 0, okay? But that's because our proportional relationships are y equals mx, okay, crosses through that origin, okay, whichever way it goes, this way, it crosses through that origin, so my y-intercept is 0. Okay, so that's important in order to graph, because that's always where we will start with y equals mx. Always our starting point for y equals mx. Okay. Okay. Then it says, what does the m tell us? Okay, well, what is m? M is our slope. Okay, we have to remember that m is slope. Okay, and then we're going to refer back to here for those things that slope tells us. Okay, so it tells us rate of change. We know that. Okay, it also tells me direction. Okay, it tells me steepness, the steepness of my line. Okay, and then it also tells me the ratio. Okay, now, one of these is not super important for graphing, okay? Rate of change, not important for graphing, okay? It is, but not just to graph it. Okay, not necessarily not important. Let's not use the word important. Let's use the word necessary. Not necessary to just graph. Okay, now direction is important, okay? Because remember, if it's positive, my graph should go like this, okay? If my slope is negative, my graph should be like this, okay? That's really important, okay? And then steepness, remember we wrote on the side here, okay, that the larger the absolute value of the slope, the steeper the line, okay? So the larger the absolute value of slope, the steeper the line. Okay, and that's going to be important when we get to, that's really just going to help us determine if what we've graphed is reasonable. Okay, and then we have the ratio. Now, of these 4, there's one that's really, really helpful for graphing. Okay, and that's the rise over run. Because you can think rise is up and down, and run is left and right. Okay, well, I drew a right arrow for left, but that's okay. Okay, so the ratio part is really going to come in handy when we're thinking about rise over run. Okay, so when we look at the equation y equals 2x, okay, so I'm going to just start up here. Okay, direction. So the direction on this one, is it going to be up and to the right or down to the right? Okay, it's going to go up to the right because this is positive. So my slope is positive, which means my line is ascending. Do you remember that word ascending that we used? Okay, when I have a positive slope, my line is ascending. Okay. Okay, then we have steepness. Okay, so it's not going to be, I mean, we can describe it. Okay, I mean, it's steeper than if it was 1. Steeper than a slope of 1. Okay, and remember, this is really going to come in handy when we're starting to compare graphs. Okay, and then last, we have our ratio, our rise over run. Okay, now, this is telling me that my slope is 2. Okay, so m equals 2 on this. Okay, so what that means is that when I divide the rise by the run, I get 2. So that's not a fraction, but what can I do to this to make it a fraction? Okay, I can take this and put it over 1. So now that means that I have a rise of 2 and a run of 1. So I'm going to go over here, okay, and I'm going to start at this, my origin, because it's y equals mx. It's not, there's no plus b, okay, and I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 1. So up and right are both positive when you're graphing. If you go up or to the right, those are positive movements. If you go down or left, those are both negative movements. Okay, it's like moving -3 instead of +3. Okay, so I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 1 because I want those to both be positive. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Up 2 to the right 1. Okay, now, what if I want to go the other way to get some points? Okay, if I go down 2, you still have to go up or down, okay, for the top. You can't just all of a sudden decide, I'm going to go 2 this way. No, it's always, the top is always up or down. Okay, the bottom is always left or right. Now, what other way, other than doing a positive divided by a positive, can I get a positive number? Because I know my slope is positive, okay? If I go down 2 and left 2, well, down 2 is negative. Left 1, I'm sorry. This should be left 1. Okay? Down 2 is a -2. Left 1 is a -1. Well, now if I divide a negative divided by a negative, that gives me a positive. So I can also go down 2 and left 1 to get that point. And see how that pattern stays in the right order? Okay, down 2, left 1. That gives me some more points. Okay, so now whenever you have a y equals something x, okay, you are going to draw a line. Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. What? Like pretty line, and you got your arrows on there. Okay. So that is the graph of the equation y equals 2x. Okay. Go ahead and do this you try by yourself. Okay. Okay, now we're going to do this equation. Okay, y equals -4x. Okay, so we're going to do kind of the same thing. The direction, okay, my slope is negative, so that means I'm going to be descending. Okay, whoops, descending. We'll talk about steepness in a minute because we'll compare it to that 2x one. Okay, but then we're going to talk about rise over run. Okay, because there's 2 different ways we can get a -4x. Okay, we can do a -4 on the top and a +1 on the bottom, or we can do a +4 on the top and a -1 on the bottom. So if I'm doing my rise, I can go negative, which would be down. So down for 1, positive. Remember, positive is to the right, okay? Because remember, up is rise. Down is, whoops, nope, right is run. Up and down is rise. Right and left is run, okay? So if I'm +1, that's a movement to the right, okay? Well, a +4 for the rise is a movement up, and a -1 on the run is a movement left, okay? So that's going to help me graph. Okay, so I'm going to start at my 0, 0, okay? I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1. So that's here, okay? Well, I don't have anywhere else I can go this way, so that's why I need to go up also. So I need to go 4 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you think, if I go this way, that's not going to make a line. Okay, so I'm going to go to the left, just like I wrote right here. Okay. So now I always want you to graph at least 3 points. Okay, 3 points is necessary. Okay, at least. You can graph more, but, okay, so now I'm going to draw my line. Okay, now if you look at this line compared to this one, you notice how it's a little bit steeper, okay? Even though it's a negative slope, okay, it's more steep than this one because the absolute value of -4 is 4. So it's going to be steeper than a line with the slope of 2, okay? Okay, so go ahead and do the U-try. Okay, example number 3. We have graph the equation y equals 1/2 x. Okay, so this one is a little bit different because let's talk about direction real quick. Okay, this is positive, so my slope or my line is going to be ascending. Going to go up and to the right. Okay, it's going to look like that. Okay, now when it comes to rise over run, okay, instead of just having a whole number or an integer, not a fraction like I did on my last ones, now I have a fraction. Okay, so my rise over run is given to me already. I don't have to think about it extra. Okay, the only thing we want to think about is how else can I get a positive 1/2? Well, if I do a -1 divided by a -2, those negatives cancel out and that becomes 1/2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and label again. Okay. If I go +1 on a rise, that's an up, and a +2 on my run, goes to the right. Okay. -1 on rise is down. I know it's weird to think of saying we're rising, but we're going down. Okay. It's because it's a rise of -1, so that's decreasing, that going down. Okay. And then -2 on a run would be left. Okay. So now I'm going to graph. Again, I'm going to start at that 0, 0, that origin, okay, because that's like +0 right there, okay. So I'm going to go up 1 to the right 2, up, so I'm going to start here, up 1 to the right 2. Try not to put extra dots in there if you can help it. Up 1 to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2, okay. Now, since we've got 4 points on there, you could go ahead and draw your line. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and get some points this way. It just makes it easier to draw a straight line if I have some points on this side also. Okay, so I'm going to go down 1 and to the left 2. That's doing this one right here. So down 1 to the left 2. If you look, that pattern continues. Down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. Okay, so then I draw my line. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but get it through your points, okay? So that's the graph of y equals 1/2 x. Now if you look at this graph compared to this one, okay? So the absolute value of 2 is greater than the absolute value of 1/2. So if you see, it's steeper than it is when it's 1/2 or less than 1. Okay, so it's kind of gone down a little bit, okay? Go ahead and do the U-try, number 3, okay? Okay, example number 4. Now we have a negative fraction. Okay, so my direction, I know my slope is negative. So will it be ascending or descending? It'll be descending. So it should look like this, okay? Something like that. Okay, and then my rise over run is -2/5. Okay, so I can get -2/5 by having -2 on the top and +5 on the bottom, or +2 on the top and -5 on the bottom. So a rise of -2 would be down, and a run of +5 would be right. And then a rise of +2 would be up, and a run of -5 would be left. Okay? And that's just going back to this part that I wrote right here. Okay. So, again, I'm going to start at 0. Okay. I'm going to start with this one, so I'm going to go down 2 into the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Don't have any other choice. I can't keep going this way. I'm not going to draw on the desk. Okay. So I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, and to the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So then I'm going to draw my line. I can get it just right. Okay. So that's the graph of negative 2/5 x. Okay, and if you look, it's even less steeper than the 1/2 x, because 1/2 x is greater than 2/5, or 1/2 is greater than 2/5. So it's even less steep than the 1/2 x. Okay. Okay, go ahead and do this last U try on the back. Okay.